Welcome to Totally Talent Podcast by HR.com, your go-to source for all things talent. Whether you're looking for expert insights on high-volume hiring, the latest trends in recruitment technology, or strategies for building a winning team, we've got you covered. Join us for each episode as we dive deep into the challenges and opportunities shaping the talent landscape today. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Totally Talent. I am live here at RecFest. We're here day 2, and I am meeting with the wonderful Claire McTaggart from SquarePeg. Claire, welcome to the show.
So happy to be here.
So Claire, just tell our audience what SquarePeg does.
Sure. So SquarePeg is an applicant screening tool. So essentially what we do is take all of your applicants from your ATS, we enrich them with contextual information that's not on the resume. Think information about where a person worked, what that company was doing during the years that they worked there, what cool things came out of that company in their department when they worked there. So we enrich it with contextual information. Then we score and stack rank all of your applicants. And we also do things like fraud detection. So mainly people use SquarePeg as the fastest, most correct and intelligent way to score and review all of their inbound applicants.
So I want to focus a little bit on the fraud detection because candidates are using AI, just like the recruiting teams are using AI. Yeah. And you're going to get, when you have all your candidates are optimized for that job description, you don't really know who is going to stand out anymore. So how do you find out the different levels of like fraud and help get that waste out of the pipeline? Yeah.
I think we're really early in the days of what we're seeing around fraud. We started out with what we think of as truly bad actors. And so when we think about a bad actor, that's somebody who, they're just trying to get your company information or some type of arbitrage. And so it is not the person who, they say they are on the resume. And so we look at those as the first line of defense. Like, how do you get rid of the bad actors? And in that case, SquarePeg has a ton of different filters that look at, all of the information that we have about that person's phone number, that person's location, that person's when they signed up for LinkedIn, like how many connections they have. There's, we probably have 6 different filters that just look at, is this the person that they say they are in the location they say they are? Now, that used to be the biggest part of fraud. You used to get a pipeline, let's say, of 1,000 applicants, and you could see 400 people that are bad actors just trying to get in. I think we're starting to see a movement a little bit away from that being the biggest problem. There are tools that just really easily sort through that. SquarePeg, you can just select your fraud filters and you can filter out the truly bad actors. Where I think the most difficult challenges and the thing that we are working on the most when it comes to fraud is what you're talking about. It's gray area fraud. Yep. So this might be a real person, but they've used a robo-apply tool that's rewriting their resume for every job, and it's overfitting all of the keywords from the JD and putting them in their resume, regardless of background. And it's not, that person is real, but they're using AI tools to their advantage. And, I think it's fair to expect that given the incentives. It's been really hard for candidates for a long time because you've had keyword filters on ATSs for so long. So they came back by stuffing their resumes with keywords and they found better tooling to do it. What SquarePeg is going to do is deep analysis of whether the resume was a robo-apply, whether it was written by GPT. Do you have unrealistic claims given the type of company that you say you worked for during the years you worked there, and the skills that you say that you have? We look for overfitting to the JD. And ultimately, SquarePeg is bringing in a series of rewards for authenticity, where we're actually showing if you're looking for something, we are looking for original resumes that don't just all say the same lines. We look for paragraphs that have been repeated in other resumes. We look for overfitting, keyword stuffing, how likely it is that somebody has a set of skills or job titles given everything else we know about them. And we don't ever say yes or no, reject or approve.
No, you just kind of put a flag there that says you should look you need a real human eyes to kind of see this is an anomaly.
Exactly. It's the way that a human who reviews a ton of resumes that all look the same and then comes upon a breath of fresh air and says, oh, this person looks authentic. I'm interested in the projects that they've done. They've talked about it in a way that a person who's actually worked in this would. We'll highlight those. And then all of the other ones where we say, hey, this person is using a paragraph to describe their work that we've seen in 6,000 other resumes.
Yes.
We do highlight that as well. And what we've seen a lot of our customers do is actually, you don't have to flat reject those people. You can, send a message in SquarePeg to all of those people and say, thanks for applying. You look interesting, but it looks like your resume is inauthentic or your resume.
Got you.
It's essentially saying, like, we see that you've used a tool. We'd actually love for you to apply with you being the real you. And then, if the candidate truly is interested in the job, they will.
Well, this is fantastic. I don't see anyone else really trying to find the AI fraud and so I'm like, this should be taking off because we're at a point now, and I don't blame the candidates for using AI to try and get through our system. It's all, keyword based and stuff. And if you can put the best version of yourself out there, and now we have AI agents that can do this for the candidate.
Yep.
But you're a great stopgap that it just says, hey, wait a second, let's just take a look at these. And you're not just like, oh, wow, look at the great candidates I got you. Yeah. Which a lot of the other ATS companies and stuff will do. What are you looking forward to next year in 2026?
So ultimately, there are a few things that we are focusing on, and then there are a few things that I think the market is going towards. So when we talk about the remainder of the year, the thing that SquarePeg excels at is contextual matching. And so what we're doing is saying it's not just what's on the resume. We're truly looking for, hey, did this person build a payments product for a fintech company that ended up taking off during the years that person was at that company? And you're not going to know that if you just look at current information about that company. So we're really looking at that time series data. So we have good contextual matching, because I think that's been a missing piece in all of this for a long time. So SquarePeg is, again, we do this for your active applicants. And then the next thing we do is for rediscovery for everybody in your ATS. So when you put a job live, how do you source from your ATS? It's not just having their most up-to-date job information, but all of that contextual matching, and then the passive market. And so that's, SquarePeg's matching technology gets applied, matching and enrichment gets applied to your active applicants, to your passive applicants, and to your rediscovery candidates. But ultimately, where do I see things going? The things we're investing in a lot is, how do people want to interact with their data and ask questions about their data? I think generally a recruiter wants to spend most of their time talking to candidates. And so what they want out of SquarePeg is to be able to have a natural language experience that says, show me the people who, progress through their career really quickly in, selling 100K ACV products in a regulated healthcare environment. And then, we can just create lists for them over and over again and say, here, surface people, because the goal of recruiting is always finding those like diamonds in the rough. Yeah. And we don't want to lose that with AI. We don't want AI to just be like, here are your 5 top, let's reject everybody else. Like, you don't want to lose that. You still want the recruiter and the hiring manager, because we have a lot of hiring managers in our platform, being able to use their intelligence and sensibility to get really interesting people. So that's kind of what we're focusing on for the coming year. But when you look at where the market is going and where is SquarePeg, in a few years from now, I think ultimately there's so much interesting information that about a company. You have what their CEO is talking about in podcasts or in interviews about where they're going. You have product releases. You have all this stuff that about, like, what is Shopify doing in the next 5 years? What is Stripe thinking about for the next 5 years? This body of information of what a company is doing and where it's going. And from that, you can somewhat project the type of workers that you will need, the type of skills that are important. And then the same thing on the candidate side. On the candidate side, you have people who are working on projects that are going to be relevant to certain companies. So can you take a body of information of what you have on a candidate and the type of things they've been doing for the types of companies during the years that those companies were doing those, and then you have the information for the employer, and at some point you have some type of digital handshake, and that digital handshake will say, here's the direction we're going based on what you've done, here's why I think you can help us. And instead of saying, here's a standard job description for solutions engineer 2, you actually say, here are the type of skills we need in our people. And broadly, like we're going to try to put them in these buckets, but it's going to be a little bit less, I think, constrained to the standard JD and the standard resume, and look more at how do we find a match between what we know about the projection and the directionality of these people over time? And I think with AI, these things become a lot more realistic. It sounded very futuristic like 2 years ago. I think it's very possible that we get there. I know everybody in the HR tech world would love to get rid of the standard JD resume, job application process. I don't think it's going anywhere like in the very short term. But if you think about what, companies on the cutting edge, what are they thinking about in the long term? It is, how do you actually take mass amounts of information to do really good, good analysis to try to see what's authentic, what's realistic, and how do we match these people in a more human way, I guess.
Great answer.
Thanks for tuning in to the Totally Talent podcast by HR.com. We hope you find today's episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to explore more episodes and discover valuable resources at hr.com/podcasts, where you can listen to all of our podcasts. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and making a difference in the world of talent.